Hello, today's Focus Friday is the Lovely You bundle, which comes with Lovely Labels Punch. You use 1 inch, 3/4 an inch, or 1/2 an inch strips of paper. Wildly grateful, cherished friend, and you're my person, and miles apart but still in my heart are the sentiments we're going to use today. We're going to start out with the sentiments, bringing in my Stamparatus. I've already created a template. I'm going to position my stamp where I need it on the template, secure my template with the magnet. Now you can see how straight your sentiment is by the grid that's etched into the plate. I'm going to double check to make sure for my straightness. Grab the other magnet. And I think that looks pretty straight. We're going to go for that. Then I'm going to take my die cut piece that I'm going to use for the card and go ahead and stamp it. The beauty of the Stamparatus is that you can stamp it twice to get a better image. There we go. Okay, for the next sentiment, we are going to emboss. So we use our embossing buddy with the Versamark. I've already positioned it and checked the positioning. So now I just, with white embossing powder, I just dip my cardstock and just brush off with a paintbrush the little bits that you don't want to be heat embossed. Then this is my embossing tool that I use. It just holds firmly and away from my fingers. Then I've heat embossed already. Then the next sentiment I've already positioned. You're my person. And then the last sentiment for the last card. Double check and make sure it's straight. That looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp on our cardstock. And then I realized it's a little bit too high or too low, so I needed to raise up the paper just a little bit. Good thing we can turn them over. There we go. It's a lot better. Okay, so we are using Pool Party, Daffodil Delight, and a new color, and Magenta Madness. I ran out of blocks, so I'm going to put 3 stamps on 1 acrylic block. I'm going to create the background, doing the flowers in Magenta Madness. Little decorative design in Daffodil Delight. Washing off with my chamois so I don't get ink on where I don't want it. So this is Pool Party for the leafy design. Take 1/2 inch strips of Magenta Madness and punch both sides. I'm cutting them down to make them smaller, and I'm going to use 5 of the strips below my sentiment. I'm going to glue them to the back with my multi-purpose glue. then I'll just go ahead and adhere it to my card front. I have to trim off a little bit of the pool party. Then I'm going to layer it on my Daffodil Delight. I'll burnish my card base and layer the card front onto the card base. That's card number 1. The next card we'll be doing uses Pool Party. I'll use this other floral design with Versamark. And what the Versamark does is leave a watermark. So basically it's the same color, just a little bit darker. I'm going to go up at an angle with my stamping. Then using the Versamark also on my little strips, I'll stamp different stamps to give it different designs. So the leafy one first, then I'll do the flower on the Magenta Madness. So it gives a tone on tone. Then using the punch, punching the edge, one edge of each of the strips. And just looking how it's going to layer. Okay. Start layering the strips of color, and then I realized I need to position it better with my card front because there's another layer. So putting it all together this way to make sure the edges match. Adhere this to the front with Stampin' Dimensionals. Using my Take Your Pick tool is a convenient way to take the backs off of the dimensionals. Position it to where the stripes match up to the one edge. If they don't perfectly match, you can trim them. And then go ahead and punch the sentiment, "You're my person." And adhere that one with dimensionals as well. Then we're ready to adhere it to the card base. Burnish the edge real crisp. And then position it. Card 2. All right, card number 3, we're going to do marker on stamp. So what I do is I use the brush end of the marker and I kind of tip it sideways so it gets more of the surface quicker. This color is Purple Posy. I'm going to go ahead and cut those out, fussy cutting. Then these are the flowers for every season gems. I'm going to pick out the clear ones and adhere them to the flowers. The take your pick tool makes it so easy to pick up those little tiny bits. Okay, then these ribbons come in the suite, the Forever Flower Suite, and the gingham is the Just Jade color, and the other is the Misty Moonlight. And they coordinate really well with the designer series paper we'll be using, playing with patterns. So I've cut out some strips of the Purple Posy, the Misty Moonlight, and strips of playing with patterns. And I've taken them and punched both edges. Then I'm going to use the Versamark and give some pattern to the Misty Moonlight with a little flower. That way all my strips are not solid. Gives a little variety to the card. Then just line up the strips right next to each other. The card front is in gray granite. Here the ribbon. And then we'll be using Stampin' Dimensionals for the sentiment. This is where the flowers are going to go. The blue plastic cut. And then finish off the ribbon by putting knots on the ends for the little twine. Yeah. I like that. Okay, now ready to burnish the fold and adhere the front to the card base. That's card number 3, Cherished Friend. All right, for this card we're going to use the Fluid 100 watercolor paper with the new water painters. There's 3 different tips. One is wide, and then these 2 are pointed but 2 different sizes. So these take the place of aqua painters. You put water in them. Then with Magenta Madness, what you do is you squeeze the case. The back is a little softer than the front to get some ink to use as our palette. Then in order to get the water out, you squeeze. There's the words that say push. That's where you squeeze it to push the water out. And then you get a nice watery consistency for your watercoloring. And clean out your brush by squeezing and making sure no color comes out. See, it's just water now. The brush is a little stained because it's a red color that I used. In order to get the tip back in, you squeeze it while it's wet. Then we're going to use Forever Gold Specialty Designer Series paper, laser cut. on my silicone mat or my silicone sheet, I'm going to put some glue on the designer paper to adhere to my watercolor paper. Center it the best you can. Then with your take your pick tool, using to pick up the little bits. It's such a helpful tool. Between the pointed tip and the other side that has putty, it helps pick up all the little tiny things that's hard to pick up. So putting two different leafy designs on there. Two facing up, and this one's going to face down because they're going to be covered by the sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and punch one edge of my sentiment, making sure it's straight on the back. Then I'll adhere that right over the top of the decorative leaves. Turn it over and trim the back. And then that is ready to put on the card base. Using Stampin' Dimensionals. There we go. Thank you for joining my Focus Friday, where we focused on the bundle of Lovely You.